Welcome to the I Self-Reflect podcast, where together we'll work to achieve self-love, self-growth, and self-reflection.
I want you to be your own guru. I want you to realize how powerful you really are, because I believe what we say to ourselves is of great importance, and our mind is our greatest asset.
Now, here's your host, Laureano Mercado.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. First off, I want to thank you all for listening and still continue to go on this unique journey with me called I Self-Reflect. If you listened to last week's episode of Messages to Myself, from my past to my present self, you would have heard a very unique experience that had happened to me and that I still continue to this day to live through. And one part of my story that I mentioned that I made a phone call after this experience. And on today's episode, I'd like to bring on the person that I made that phone call to and who was a witness to myself during this time and times going through this whole process or spiritual journey. He is CEO and founder of the first eco-friendly cleaning company in greater Indianapolis called Eco Clean Indy. He is also the founder of the NBA Culture podcast, which is now streaming on all available platforms. And most importantly, he is a longtime person whom I've personally known for over 15 years that I'm happy to call a great friend. He goes by Harvey Banks, but I always call him HB. HB, it's a pleasure to have you on, and I thank you for being part of today's show. What's up, man?
What's up, man? It's good to be here. I don't think I've ever gotten an introduction like that. I'm sitting here like, damn, that's me?
That is you, my man. Yeah. The man, the myth, the legend, baby.
No,
but I'm definitely glad to have you on. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you have you on. I kind of want to jump right into this, whether or not you personally listened to the last week episode, which you actually stated before this that you did. Mm-hmm. But you were a person who was there. You were on the phone while I was this was all taking place for me. And so if you could, I'd like you to describe any and all details you might recall from that specific day when I called, from like either the date, the time, to anything you can feel in me and all for the listeners, for everybody listening.
Okay. Well, I mean, if I'm going to tell it, I'm going to try to tell everything that I do remember. And the first factor of it, I don't know if you remember this or not, but we actually hadn't talked for about a month. And that doesn't sound like a long time for a lot of people, but we pretty much talk every day. Right. And so you were actually, I can't remember why we didn't talk. I do, but I'll share that with you later because it involves someone else. And I don't know that they're okay with all that, but it wasn't that important anyways. But so when you call, if I'm available, I answer, period. I don't care if we're mad at each other or just told each other F off, you know what I mean? Right. And so I remember that day because you were, I don't want to say you were someone else, but your tone from the very beginning was very different. And so I remember when you first called, you sound panicked, but it's like being something's coming, but I don't know what, but I got to get this conversation out before it cuts off.
Right.
And you were just like, I first answered the phone and literally what you said to me was, we're going to be straight.
Huh.
And so I was like, what are you talking about? And you was like, I went through, I did it, and we're going to be straight. And I was like, did what? And you didn't want to explain what you explained on your last episode about the experience that you had with Paula and this, sacrifices you made, the choices you had to make and things like that. You did not want to go into that. It took an hour or so of the conversation to get you to for me to get details out of you.
Did we talk for that long?
We did. We talked for about an hour and a half or 2 hours.
And for those listening, I don't remember anything. I do remember initially saying, hey, we're going to be set or something like that. Yeah. And that's all I remember from the whole conversation. So as you listen to this, I'm learning as well.
So as I'm trying to get details from you, you kind of stopped me abruptly. And I remember you were like, is this really you? And I was like, what? What are you talking about? Yeah, you're like, how do I know this is really you? And I was like, you called me. Like,
oh, shit.
yeah. And I was like, well, you called me. So, and you were like, yeah, but like maybe this is a part of the simulation. And I was like,
oh shit.
And so I'm like, okay, but like you have to understand, for it to be part of the simulation, I would have to be in on it. I would naturally be on your side because I don't know them, right? So I would tell you, yo, you got us in this fucked up simulation. This is what I was trying to explain, like at the time, and I understand now that it probably creeped you out a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I was like, it's me. And you said, I remember you said, say something that I know it's you. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not playing that. And you were like, all right, it sounds like you. Yeah, right. But
yeah,
and it's funny, but it really wasn't funny to me that day because like,
yeah,
you went on that with that simulation talk for a while, and you literally said the words to me before we got off the phone. Like, you explained to me the Paula stuff, and I'm gonna be honest, at the time that wasn't that important to me. It's not that I didn't believe you. It's I didn't know what was going on. Do you cuss on here? You don't cuss on here. I'm trying to control myself.
Oh, no, I do.
Okay, cool. I didn't know what the fuck was going on, if I'm being honest. Like, so I was like, what is he talking about? And then you kept saying, I know this is a dream. Like, this is like a simulation. And to wake up out of it, like kind of like when you're sleeping, you're dreaming, you got to die. And that's when you wake up.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like, holy shit, he's going to fucking kill himself thinking he's waking himself up. Not like I thought you were going to kill yourself on accident. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, he's thinking he's going to. I actually reached out to your sister on Facebook and was like, hey, I got a call from your brother. This is kind of what he told me. Have you talked to him? And she's like, I haven't really talked to him in a while. We don't talk that often.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this is kind of serious. So I don't really know what's going on, but you might need to check on him. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you finally, like I said, you calmed down as you started to tell me the story about Paula and how you called it a game then. And I don't know or remember. You might have explained how it was a game that you were playing with her, but I don't necessarily remember that part. But you kept referring to it as a game. And like, you had to make these choices. And based off the things that you chose in this game, that's what was going to happen. And you told me that, like, you told me the part about it being like, do you want the good, or do you want the good now or the bad now? You know what I mean? And you were like, well, I want to go through the hell first. Yeah. And you were like, so like, it's just know that we're going to be good because I'm choosing this now, but it's all going to be okay. And that had me even more thinking, oh yeah, this dude's definitely fucking about to kill himself. And how am I going to, I was thinking to myself, how the fuck am I going to explain this to Margot and Andy? Because they would need an explanation, and your sis Steph would need an explanation. And I was like, well, I don't really need to tell Margot and Andy because like, I don't feel like I have a moral obligation to them. Right.
Okay.
Not like, that sounds rude, not in a rude way. They've always been great to me, but like, I have an obligation to Steph, right? I would have to explain to her what the fuck happened. And then while explaining that, is that my fault for not doing more? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I was just like, what the fuck do I do? Like, and yeah, it was really, really confusing. I was afraid that the next phone call I got after we got off the phone was going to be, hey, he's dead and you're the last number that's on. You're like the only Indiana number on his phone. You know what I mean?
Oh, fuck, yeah.
And so we didn't talk. I don't know if you remember this too. I didn't hear from you for like 2 weeks.
After that?
Yep.
I don't remember even talking to you. And what my head feels like maybe a couple of years later.
Mm-mm. Yeah, it wasn't that long. I talked to you once or twice, like 2 weeks after it happened. The first time you specifically said, "I don't want to talk about it," right? And then, I don't know. Remember, to this day, I've got weird vibes about this Paula girl.
Yeah,
because it's the only thing you've ever not talked to me about.
Mm-hmm.
You know things about me that I don't really talk to about nobody else, and vice versa, right? Like we've had them awkward conversations, like, "Oh shit," like,
yeah.
But she's the only thing that, like, you were just like, it's like you was afraid of her. But in a weird sense, that made me feel it was more real. I never doubted I never thought you was playing or no shit like that, right?
Right.
But like the way you acted after is what made me be like, damn, that's crazy.
So what was the conversation that happened 2 weeks after that?
The conversation that happened 2 weeks after that was basically me saying, like, you have to explain what you're talking about because I don't know what you're talking about.
Did I seem upset? Or
yeah, you were upset with me. You were specifically upset with me because I wasn't going to every bar to see if I could perform my music. Because you said that's going to be the process to get it out there. And you even said to me that, like, it takes sacrifice. It takes this and it takes that. And it was almost as if you were saying without saying, like, I did my part here. You're going to have to do this or I can never come out of it. You know what I mean? I don't know. That might sound dramatic, but I'm not trying to be.
That honestly, it rings a slight bell because, when I told the story in the last episode, during this encounter with her, I literally described who I was close to. And, for a good greater part of my life, my friends have been pretty much my core family. I've kind of been drawn towards them mostly, and you especially, because we had a different connection than everyone else than in my friends group at the time, and so I remember describing you to her and what you're about and what you're achieving to do, and at that time you were into music, and I do recall this moment where it was like, I chose that I wanted to kind of take on everyone's burden. There was something about a burden, like everyone's going to go through hard times, but also I was given this option of like, or would you just prefer to have it all on you and take it away from all these other people? And I said, yes, because I felt like I was strong enough to be able to handle something like that. And I knew I was going to go through some hard times. So I was like, well, if I'm going to go through the hard times first, let me take on the burden of everybody else, because I want it all. Like the kind of like this metaphorical hell, but that was real in some sense. I was like, give it to me and I'll be able to get through it and handle it all. But yeah, I remember kind of describing you, and with the whole music stuff, by you describing it, I think it was exactly that. I think it was kind of like my future got, shown to me in a weird way that was like very frightening on like these different life path choices. And I think my head was so stuck on like, look, I already told this person or they or whoever, whatever they are, that these are the steps and this is what it's about. And if they foresee this certain site, then I was like, oh, we have to kind of stay towards this path, and because then that path is going to lead to our success type thing. So that's the only thing I can think of why I was pretty upset, of like, and trying to speak around the bush, so to say, of like, hey, I think this is it. Like, but I can't say it out loud because I don't want them to stop this weird fucking game because of
and
me telling you.
That was the vibe that I got too. And after that conversation, I remember we didn't talk for a long time because I was basically, and just like so your listeners know who I was back then. I seem level-headed now, but back then I thought I knew everything, right? And so like I thought I had all the answers, and who were you to tell me what I should be doing? You know what I mean? Right. And so like that was kind of my.
Oh, I'm sure that rubbed you off the wrong way, especially
absolutely, especially young me. You know me, I had an ego and I hadn't really accomplished anything, but I had accomplished some things that other people hadn't.
Yeah.
And I knew I had talent, so you couldn't fucking tell me anything. And now you're gonna tell me that like I swear, like it sounds so stupid now, but I do. No, I remember that's the reason we stopped talking after that. I do remember that.
Well, that it makes sense. It aligns up. But honestly, back in the day, I'm not sure how you saw it, but when I saw you rap for the first time, listen to your music, I was already on your side. I was like, this motherfucker is a star. Like, and I'm just going to praise him all the way because I know what he's capable of. Like, you know, from the concerts you threw, I was, you know, I try to be the person in the front row, my hands up in the air, hyping you up and doing whatever I can, because that's how much I believed in you. And for some reason, this story connects with that because it was so intertwined with something, you know, like that. And
for me, even then, like, so I came to your school abruptly, right?
Right.
Like how we met was like literally I was getting in trouble in Kentucky, and I got in trouble Monday, and I started school in Indiana Wednesday, right? Like it was one of those situations like you got to go now.
You got to change.
And so I didn't know anybody. Like I didn't really know anybody, but I came with the attitude that I don't want to know nobody. I'm not about to be here forever. I'm just here for now. And so like there was people that I met, like I was playing basketball at the time. So I met a group of people, but none of them felt genuine. So I ain't really like I knew them, they were cool, but like, nah. But like it was you and that weird ass kid that sat with us at lunch. Do you remember him? Yo, oh my God. So listen to this. He used to sing that stupid song, Video Killed the Radio Star. Do you remember this kid?
What?
Bro. No. Oh my God, it's going to drive me nuts. He was like the school weirdo. He was in our grade, and like nobody sat with him. And he sat with, when I sat with you at lunch, because I didn't know it was my lunch period that first day I met you. And you were like, no, we go to lunch here, but we come back to this classroom. I just followed you. Yeah. And that kid sat at the table with us. And people would say stuff like, wait, y'all hang out with him? Oh my God, I wish I knew his name. Everybody knew him as a school weirdo.
Dang, I don't remember that at all.
Jesus Christ, yo. Yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday.
Well, it's probably best not to remember his name, so.
Yeah, but like, I was just like, it just felt like every other relationship I had was forced. Like the black people that I knew there was forced and arranged. You know what I mean?
Oh,
it just like, I have to be friends with these people because like my mom is with her and then they know them and they go to church with them. So naturally I have to know them and do this. But like, and then it's like, oh, well, these guys play basketball. So they know me for basketball and that. And then like, but like with you, it was just like, what do you like? Well, what do you like? You know what I mean? Like, well, we kind of like the same things. So,
cool. Well, actually, remember, it was like, I think it was biology class because we had a hot ass teacher.
I'm trying to tell you,
I think you said like a couple. Man,
the thing I want to remember is this kid's name so bad because I can picture him now. But yeah, and then we actually had like 3 classes together.
We did. It was like English, study hall, and biology or some weird shit like that.
And so yeah, man, like it was just it was a natural thing. And so for me, I was just like, if I'm going to do this, like when I didn't even tell a lot of people about the music at first, because we didn't really start the music stuff until I wasn't even going to school there no more. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Yeah.
Like, just because like the music was something special to me. And so I was thinking, if I make it, I'm only taking people that matter to me. So that's why when you jumped in with it, that meant a lot. That was perfect for me. Cause like to this day, I'm pretty sure we're the only ever concert at the Park and Rec in Crawfordsville.
Yeah.
Seems stupid, but hey, we had people in there. You know what I mean? Like
that. Yeah. Shit.
like
We broke even, and that was fucking
we had
definitely a
tickets.
highlight.
Yeah, and it cost us a lot of money, and we broke even on that, which is a kind of a big deal and stuff. So it was the music. I wanted to. We shared that, but it wasn't just the music. It was like success. Like, I'm going to take you with me. I'm going to take him with me. I'm going to take him with me. And then we're going to do this thing. Because I never wanted to do music alone.
Yeah. And I knew we shared that special bond. And so like during this weird day that happened to me, and I'm sure you probably picked it up during the last episode, to where it was kind of like I was able to pick somebody to go on this journey with me. And it's a soft memory I have, but I remember having to tell them all about you, pretty much, of, pretty much what you meant to me in my specific life, that I made you my best friend and picked you for this type of thing. And that's what enabled me to pretty much call you afterwards and be like, we're going to be set because I pretty much picked you to go on this journey with me. And ever since then, we've always had this weird synchronicity, fucking weird synergy going on without much explanation, but it's kind of based on that. So, that kind of even like lies some more truth within the story itself, because of how crazy connected we are and all the synergy stuff that's happened in all those moments.
After I listened to last week's episode, and I actually had a couple of questions, because like I said, some of the stuff I didn't know, some of the stuff I did know, but I've got a question on the timeline. So you talk about the day, right? But like you actually recounted a lot of stuff happening, and I might have just missed you saying like a couple weeks later or this and that. But as you see it, how do you see it? Do you see it as this day that happened, or just this crunch of time?
That's a great
question. Are we talking? You know what I mean? Because and you might have said like, and then a couple weeks I went through this, then a couple weeks I almost had a breakdown at work, and then it's like, whoa. Because like what was that day like? Like when you talked to Paula, and you also mentioned two other people. You didn't say their names, or like, I don't know if
I actually did say their names.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not even in contact. I actually just added one person on Facebook because we disconnected for a long time, and we don't really talk. But so the way I recall it is like I moved to Oregon in 2008, and I lived with my aunt and uncle who lives in Eugene. And then after living there for 2 years, I moved out to an apartment by myself. And then that's where Paula was my neighbor downstairs. And so my timeline, so that would be around like 2010-ish. But for some reason, I want to say 2012. And honestly, I'm not even sure that's right. But it's probably more closer to 2010, because I don't think I was actually able mentally to stay there for a full year by myself after meeting her, because all this was happening. But for some reason, I remember it being right before November, because I ended up taking a trip to see Andy and Margot, which are my godparents, out in Michigan for Thanksgiving. And that was like me starting to feel the grunt of all this, because I pretty much let them all have it, venting out the spew of my brain towards them. But this whole timeline of how everything happened, so the grunt of it in my vision, my recollection, happened in one day. And then after the phone call with you, telling you, hey, this is what's happening, or something like that, or we're going to be set, or some shit. From then on, I think it spanned from there to about 3 months. So, I was going back to work at the restaurant. I recall telling people at work, look, I'm about to go on the spiritual journey, and it's going to be like for 3 months. And so in my head, I literally thought like I was about to be like taking time off work or something like that.
Yeah.
But then while I was continuing going back to work, all of a sudden I felt the shift happen, like in my spirit or my soul. And it was just like this immediate shift where I was like, oh shit, what the fuck? Where am I? And like one day I just woke up and it just felt like a whole dream. And I was just like, wow, you guys do good work. And that's when I started clapping. And then I was trying to live every day. But as the days kept going on, I kind of remember bits and pieces from that initial meeting or something, or if I don't know if it just felt like something over me was telling me, like, if I had one drawstring farther than the other on my hoodie, it was like something was telling me, hey, that means something. And like somebody was telling me that, and I was feeling it. And then I'd go outside, and then all these interesting people would naturally just walk up to me out of the blue. And I was like, oh shit, I'm in it. And I didn't realize I was in it. And so that's when I thought I was dreaming. And I was like, well, I guess I still go to work, right? Because at that point, I didn't know if it was real or not real. I didn't know if it was a dream or some lucidity that I was really going on in. So I was like, well, I don't want to seem crazy that this is a dream, nor fuck up my future. So I'm just going to continue with my patterns, keep going to work, and keep doing as it normal. And that's when all the weird shit happened. But I'd say that happened with all in about 3 months span after that. And then I just hit rock bottom, and I was unable to pretty much take care of my own self by myself.
Do you think that you got to bottom because of your knowledge of what happened to you? So like, it's almost like if you know the bad has to come, did you accelerate that process? Right. You know what I mean?
No. Yes, I know what you mean. No, I don't think so at all. Uh-huh. It was literally a physical and mental shift that my whole essence of me felt. And it felt a little gradual in the beginning, but then it was like day 2, it was just like whoosh. And I was in it. I was in the deep end.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to kind of know a journey's coming and still be patient enough to ride it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's why I asked that. I didn't know how that affected you, or if you thought that it affected you at all.
Well, when it did, I remember when it kicked in, I had that feeling of like, I knew I was in it, you know? So I had the recollection of what was happening in the moment. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm feeling like that, because it's like if you take, like, let's say acid or LSD for the first time, so you're expecting something about to kick in about 40 minutes or something like that. And so that build up to it, you know, a little bit, it was like, I felt this small gradual step, and I was like, okay, it's okay. This is what's about to happen, because I'm about to go on this weird spiritual journey or something like that. And then it just immersed in me to where it didn't give me much time, so to say, to build up or think about it, besides me just telling people, hey, I'm about to go on this journey. And, you know, I remember telling somebody at work, and he was just like, fuck, I want to do that. You know, I remember that physical conversation, and I was just like, fuck.
So I might have missed it, because I listened to last episode in like 3 or 4 different settings, because like I didn't get a chance to like sit down and listen all at once, right? And I remember
twice, kind of my longest podcast.
Twice kind of going back and listening again. But what brought Paula into your life?
Oh, that's a great question as well. You know, so before I even met her, and during this certain day, she brought this up. Like, I remember sitting in my aunt and uncle's room. I had my own room in their house, you know, and I was smoking weed, drinking, but I still felt like just me. I was, you know, still charismatic, still outgoing. I still who I at that time identified, this is who I am. And that's who I felt I was. And I remember one day my life started changing just a little bit, to where I was smoking weed, and the floor was it was carpet in my room. And I had 2 weird instances that I'll never forget in my life. And then this will come up to the next Paula issue. I was kind of just sitting in my room. I had this routine where I'd stop by the 7-Eleven, grab a sandwich and like a DVD, and I'd go home and I'd smoke some weed and watch a movie and eat and kind of just veg out and just have my night. It was all fine. But this one day I remember I was kind of I didn't even turn on TV. I just felt like I just want to be deep in thought. And usually that's what happens when I do smoke marijuana, where I'm just relaxed. I feel creative. I can expand my mind just a little bit to just kind of see things and be creative, just what you would think you would do if you smoke. But I remember looking down on my carpet floor and I saw footsteps, like individual footsteps, but nobody was there, but it was like pressed down like somebody's walking by. And I'll never forget that because I've smoked weed a lot. And as you know, if anybody knows, when you smoke weed, you don't see shit like that. You don't really hallucinate. Your mind doesn't go like that or start seeing shit. And I was just like, wow, this is fucking, there's something here. And I was like, I remember thinking I was still new to Oregon. I was like, fucking Oregon, there's some weird shit going on here. And another instance that kind of ties into with this weird era that's about to happen with my life. I remember sitting in my room. I think I got back from a night of drinking and I'm smoking weed. But for some reason, I decided to sit up on my bed and turn off all my lights. I don't know why. I don't remember why I did it. I just did it. And it wasn't like I was going to meditate or anything. I was just sitting there and it was just like, I just felt it and I just turned it off and I just did it. But I remember sitting there, my back against the wall in this small, tiny room, probably like 15 by 15. And there's just like one little glow star sticker, probably like a 12 o'clock position up, stuck on the wall. And then there's this smoke detector, which had like a faint little green light on the right hand side. And I'm just kind of just chilling there. And then all of a sudden, the glow in the dark sticker, which is, illuminates green when you turn off all the lights, and the smoke detector, which illuminates this little green button, they started, they conjoined like slowly. It was like two little orbs that connected right in front of me in the middle of the room. And then all of a sudden expanded into this shadow-like figure because the lights were off. So everything was dark naturally, but started expanding. And I immediately, like, every fucking fiber of my soul and my body just like raised up like if I was a fucking cat, and my hair was just like zing all in 1 second. And I freaked the fuck out because I'm like, oh shit. And I remember reaching for my lamp, like, of course, it's like one of those movie settings where I can't, it's like one little switch. I'm so panicked. I knock over the whole lamp. I can't even turn it on. I'm panicking. And I finally get it on. My lamp's on the floor, and I grab some fucking like bat type thing, like looking around my room, like, what the fuck? And nothing's there when I turn on the light. And so that certain day when I met with Paula, she said something that still sticks with me today, and that I mentioned on that last episode, to where she said, oh, like, you think you're out here by accident? We brought you out here. And so I don't know if those footsteps or the shadowy figure that came into my room alive was part of that. But, her being my neighbor down below me, it was one of those things. I was always walking up and down my apartment. And I'm a friendly person. I saw her and we talked, small chat. She'd invite me in, and she's a lady who used to be like a geologist and goes like mining in Arizona and blow up like little mines, and has a bunch of crystals, and she even has a crystal ball in her house, but it's all crystals and little petrified artifacts and stuff like that.
Now, when she says we, who do you think that is? You don't have to know. I'm just saying that's like, who do I think it is? That was where my curiosity just went. Yeah. Like, I wonder who she's talking about.
I think it's aliens, or what she politically correct me to say is foreigners. Somebody else outside either the realm or this planet, so to say. That's what I think it is. And so, yeah, and I've met so many interesting people because living above her, she would be the person closest to me that I could essentially be attached to, especially going through all this. But every time I went in her place, there'd be somebody new and interesting in her place who was either a mystic, a tarot card reader, or followed, paganism or voodooism and all these different esoteric things. And sometimes they would tell me stuff about me, about like, they would read my cards or be like, they would feel something from me and tell me about it and be like, oh, wow, you're kind of like this person. And I want to let you know you're about to go through a lot. And, but I think you're going to overcome it type thing. So I'm not quite sure what the connection is or essentially why this kind of came about. According to her, trying to, going crazy a lot of the times, especially in the beginning of like, what the fuck is happening? Like, who are you? What am I going through? And she would kind of just go back to the saying, you deserve something like this. You're a good person and stuff like that. But I've honestly been through hell.
And so just to clear things up for people that might be hearing this, that'll have the questions because they're hearing something they're not used to hearing. Have you ever given her any kind of money or anything like that? Like, did you pay her for this service?
No, not at all.
Or not for this service, for any kind of services or anything like that?
No, I mean, she makes necklaces out of rocks and stones.
Yeah.
But in the grunt of why I was going through all this, she never asked for money. Like, I would buy weed off her sometimes because she would have a weed connect. And at that time around, between 2010, 2012, we didn't have dispensaries. So you also have to find the weed man. And so she had the connections because she lives in Eugene, been there for like 20, 25 years. And so she was kind of like the mother figure of this whateverness. And so she was kind of my weed person. But there's a lot of stones and rocks that I still have till this day that she's actually gifted me. And there's a few of them that I've purchased off her for like a necklace or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's different. I didn't mean that. I just wanted to make sure that people like understood that like there's no money involved. You know what I mean? Like,
there was no money involved. I didn't give her anything. I honestly not quite sure to say the least. And, there's one thing that I've kind of debated a lot and I've kind of talked to you a lot. And this always comes about is one question that always comes up is if this Paula person, if she's a person I could trust, and that's kind of been my biggest worry throughout the whole years. So it's been a catch-22 because it's a person I can trust because in my head, it's a person that initiated all this in my eyes. But then at the same time, I literally been through years and years and years of hell. And she's also been a person I blame for that as well. Mm-hmm. And so, it was just been really terrifying. But especially the fact that I remember signing some sort of piece of paper. And I don't know if it was a contract, so to say. And, it's just a bit frightening to say that that's something I can't quite remember. And I do know the power of belief is like very powerful, especially if you believe in somebody and somebody else's ideology or if they're going to do something. But, I always trust in people's goodwills and their intentions. But not be able to remember something like that so clearly is concerning, to say the least. But what's weird is Paula, even to this day, like I still consider like a friend. And although I never get like a clear-cut response that's beyond metaphors or riddles, there's something about it that does tell me, like me initially signing up for this process or spiritual journey, that I have to do some introspective thinking and also trust in myself that day I must have had that gut feeling to go with along with whatever was about to happen. Does that make sense?
Do you feel like you had a choice though?
I feel like I must have, because I believe we all have free will. And I don't think there was anything at that time. And I remember that time in like little spurts to where, I'm sure I felt a little uncomfortable, but inviting those two people to be witnesses with me probably eased my mind a little bit, whether they remember it or not. Because I don't know if they got their mind blocked or erased or whatever.
I was going to say, have you spoke to them about that specific experience?
So Yeah. So it actually happened after the fact, after everything.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was a couple weeks later, a couple years later. I remember sitting at Starbucks and I messaged the girl that was there, Daniela, at the time. And I wrote her on the computer. I was like, hey, so do you remember that day? And do you remember that this happened? And Paula kind of told me my future and said that you're about to go to the Navy and all this shit. And she says no. And I'm sitting at Starbucks like, what the fuck? Like, there's no way that you know what I mean? I thought I had these two people to keep myself grounded. And I was kind of freaking out. And so, and Connor was the gentleman that was there. And he was like the homie at the time. I was very close to him. We worked out, every day. We smoked weed, we kick it. He gave me rides everywhere. And we're just buddies and shit. And I was like, and he was just honest. And I knew I can go up to him and be like, fuck all this shit. Tell me what the fuck's going on. And he would tell me. And Connor, what I mentioned last episode, he was kind of he was like what's it called? Introspective guy, like an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
He kept to himself. He wasn't like a smooth talker to the ladies. He wasn't quite outgoing. He had his own niche that he kept to. And there's like little things about him that I remember, like, he didn't like dogs and shit like that. They're just annoying and loud. And so I remember I was like, fuck it. I walked to his house. I'm going to end all of this. And I felt like I had a satellite over me, honestly, while I was walking to his house, because it took me like a mile or two to walk from where I was at. And usually I like to make things quick because I'm like, oh, I don't want to give anybody time to, switch this little future up on me. Like, let me just get there and fucking be spontaneous about it and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And I remember calling my brother on the phone, like, hey, this is what I'm going through and this is what I'm about to do. And he was just like, nah, man, just don't do that. Forget about it. And I was like, no, I need to figure out some answers. So I get to Connor's house and I see his trucks in the driveway. I knock on his door and this girl opens the door and she's holding a little chihuahua and my mind's fucking blown. And I'm like, first of all, like, it was just weird for me, And I was like, wow, this is must not be Connor's house. He maybe moved or some shit. Uh-huh. And I was like, hey, is Connor here? And she's like, oh, actually, he's not. He's out and about right now, and this and that. And she wasn't quite formal. Was like, yo, you want me to tell him something? I was like, no, just let him know I stopped by and this and that. Even though his truck was there, so that didn't quite help my mindset because I was like, what the fuck is going on? Because he was the one person I kind of relied on. But then after that, I was like, okay, maybe it's too soon to kind of find out. So this is supposed to just ride out a little bit and he's doing his part type thing. Mm-hmm. And then years later, probably around 2015, like very much years later, I got done working at a gym in Springfield, which is the next town over. And I was sitting in front of a Safeway and I see Connor come out of this huge SUV with one of his buddies that he has, who I've never met before. And they literally walk about 10 feet in front of me, past me into Safeway. And I look up, we kind of like glance at each other real quick, and my whole body just kind of looks back down. And I'm like, oh my God, because I panicked. I was like, you know what I mean? I figured he would have said something, or I thought initially I was going to say something, but it was just like I was just dumbfounded. And I walk into Safeway and I was like, "Fuck it, let me just talk to him. Let me just see." And then I was like, if nothing came about, I'm about to seem really crazy to this gentleman that I haven't spoken to 2 years about something he either doesn't remember or got something blocked or erased, and I'm about to just seem like this wacko person, like who knows that maybe in his eyes he never met before in his life.
Yeah.
And so to this day, I haven't really talked to them, and nor they have confirmed about even being there.
Wait, did you approach him though that day?
I didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
I walked back into Safeway to give it a second chance, and I couldn't go along with it.
Huh. Yeah. That's deep.
Fuck, man. I know it's been a lot. It's definitely been a journey. And you know, I just have to. Oh, go ahead.
I guess the last question that I really have about it is, where do you think you're at on the journey now?
And that's a great question, because so at this point in my journey in my life, I realize, at least at this point now, that there is power of free will. Like, I actually saw a hypnotherapist for the first time last week ever in my life. And it's something I've always wanted to try, to see if I can get kind of like a past life regression, more like but to that specific point in time, to see if I recall anything that was blocked or I forgot or anything like that. And, it was just interesting, especially from a psychology point of view, to see the steps he was taking to kind of deep dive into my brain and what I was like willing to open up to. And I was all for it, because I was like, let's go. Mm-hmm. He kept reminding me that we humans always have free will on our choices and our journeys in life. And honestly, it was kind of comforting to hear that. And so, like, at this point now, it's like, I just know I have to stay focused on growth, opportunity, positivity. And to tell you the truth, I'm not sure what is real or what is not real anymore still. If I had to say, hey, if I'm dreaming or not dreaming, I would say I'm still dreaming. I feel like I call it my lucid psychological dream that I'm still in. And that's a long name, but that's the only way I can describe every single aspect and part of it. And so, but I know the universe is like one big mysterious place, and we have yet to even touch ground on even beginning to really understand who and what we are and what we're really capable of. But where I'm currently at in my life, I do feel blessed to have come this far. And, I'm even more blessed of the things we usually take for granted now, more so, just because of all the shit I've been through, just the simple shit of having a roof over my head, good health, and a much more stable mindset than I did have all those years back. And, I stay to the premise now to never give up and always to keep striving forward, because I lived during a time for myself where those two things definitely was a silver lining at a few points in my life in the past. Like, I never, ever even had a hunch or a little movement in my life to think about suicide or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I really thought this was a game. And I remember even joking that certain day to Connor that if you have to go ahead and pull a gun out and shoot me in the head if you have to wake me up. At least it's going to be quick, but as soon as it's over, we get to laugh about this. It's going to be crazy.
That was the scary thing for me. That part.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was scary for me because, there's been a couple of instances to where without him there, I thought years later that he was going to pop in my door and, as my homie from that day, still come in and save my life by killing me in this dream state. Because in a dream state, if you die, you wake up.
That's the same shit you said to me on the phone right there.
Yeah, and I firmly believe that. And so I was going through a crossroads of the psychology aspect of like, what am I thinking? But then part of me knew it was real, Yeah. And so I was like, fuck, maybe I have to just live this out and just die naturally. Like when I'm old and, this and that. And then I'm just like, I wake up and I'm in this fucking coma and everyone's sitting around me like some Wizard of Oz shit. Really sincerely thought that's what it was about in this whole fucked up game that I was in. And it's interesting that you said game too, because that's the words I use too. And that's what I recall, but I think the game kind of ends up being this whole game of life type thing. And which kind of makes it more interesting and fucked up on this grand scale of things when you think about it.
I mean, yeah, it was, like I said, that was definitely, I understood the vibe of it. It felt very real. And that was what felt very dangerous to me. You know what I mean?
No, I totally understand. And I'm so, honestly, I'd like to tell everybody and yourself and remind you that, one thing that's kept me grounded.
You like to tell everybody to end yourself?
Oh no, no.
What did you say?
Coming to you live. I'll just kidding.
What the fuck? I was like, whoa, okay, I'm gonna have to
Gotcha,
stop you right
bitch.
there.
It's a dream, isn't it? Bam.
Damn. Oh man.
No, I just want to reinforce to yourself again, and to everybody that's listening that one of the major things that has kept me grounded has been you. From that phone call that I placed and called you. And I know there's been several times over the years where I'll just call you and be like, I don't want to talk to anybody else, or I don't talk about anything else besides this. Did I call you that day? And you've had a couple of times just remind me, take me back, like, okay. And that always keeps me grounded because it just reminds me that I'm not crazy and I didn't make this up. And, there's like these true life events. But then again, somebody could question, like, nah, you still could have made this up and you could have just called your friend and be on the psychosis nut and shit like that. But that's why I kind of like to, when I'm around people, I like to prove things to them and like, I'll show them different shit. And
yeah.
And it's definitely.
I did not think it was a game. So, I mean, if that helps validate that story any at all, I remember it vividly. It was not funny. It was not a game. There was no, you know what I'm saying? So I do remember I've had like little spouts of depression back in the day, but when I shifted through all of this, it shifted everything. I've never felt anything like this in my whole entire life. And I've had like traumatic things happen in my like trauma, both parents passed away and shit like that. And so it wasn't like I had a traumatic experience that shifted my life around towards this. This literally happened due to an encounter I had with this lady who's real. So that's why when I meet people, I'm like, hey, we can stop by her house and meet her right now. Because, she'll hug you and kiss you and we can try to question her about shit, but she'll pretty much just show you her rocks and stones and shit like that. But I'm just like, fuck. I still think this is some weird journey and this is definitely real. I just hope this is a person that I can still trust in some sort of way. And like, I still have her phone number and I can call her right now. And it's like one of those real life experiences for me. So what would be the percentage chance you think that she would be willing to get on with both of us on here?
Oh, I think she'd do it in a heartbeat.
I think that would be good. Maybe we get her on and just, you can ask, even if she doesn't want to talk about your specific thing on your specific day, you can get questions in from your side and from me as an outsider. Right. You know what I mean? Because like when it comes to the esoteric stuff, you go deeper than I do. And so like, it might be good to get the other side just being like, explain this to me, Exactly.
And that's kind of during the last episode. That's why actually I texted her and I read some of those text messages, from word for word, the way she responded. I didn't fabricate anything. If she repeated a certain word several times, I said it the way she texted me. And that's the way she kind of talks to me, where she knows at a certain pinpoint where I'm like, no, actually, I'm trying to get to the bottom of this and I'm being serious. What she'll text back, it'll seem like she'll get on this certain plane and be like, okay, I can say a little. It's like the day I called you, to where it's like, I can tell you something, but I can't tell you it all for some weird reason that I don't know. And so I think we're going to get a lot of metaphors and riddles, but nonetheless, I think it still might be good and interesting because I think she'll be all for it.
Yeah, you should reach that out. You should see, because I think that would be good for your listeners. Because I think it'd be fun too. Because I've got questions for her that I'd like to ask. Yeah,
definitely. And it's interesting, when I went to the hypnotherapist session, I actually sent him the podcast recording to the episode because I wanted him to deep dive from my psychology perspective and kind of use that to stem off and go from there. But yeah, I'm gonna have to check into that and see. It'd have to be through a phone call type thing and kind of a recording with that. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
Wow.
So, I want to say, I do know the future has, I'm not sure, but what it is, but I do know the future has something special in store for me. It's a feeling I've always had, for a long time. And I've had this feeling before encountering, a person such as Paula. I knew what I was capable of, And I knew, even living in Indiana, I lived a easy, happy life because I knew what I was capable of. I knew like I do whatever I wanted to do. Like I was just that charismatic and a go-getter. And then when this came into my life, it kind of bumped me and shifted me. And that's how I knew something was off, because I was like, oh, this isn't me at all. Like I went to being an introvert, having to hide out in a house because I couldn't leave the house because I was feeling fucking energies from other people and all this other shit that was really, really overwhelming to all my senses. And that kind of in turn made me go a little crazy. But I don't know what it is. I do know the future has something in store for me, as long as I just feel like I just got to keep going. But I believe wholeheartedly that goes for all of us listening as well. I have a quote written on my board that's always next to me. And it says, live for whatever makes you feel alive. And I want you to know that if that something happens to be your family, your friends, or even yourself in ways, then I say that is worth it. And you're truly living your best life. And that's something I'm living starting this year on. Live for whatever makes you feel alive. And let me also add that if you're actually going through an experience such as one that I went through, or anything else that might be detrimental to your mind, your health, or your mindset, please reach out, either to close friends, family. And although I'm not fond of therapists, it can definitely be a great outlet to a lot of things to let them off your chest, and also to obtain like a different point of view from somebody else. Remember, it feels great to vent. And lucky on my side, I have HB to be that person that I can vent to 24/7 when I want to. And if all fails, please reach out to me personally at Loriano@iselfreflect.com. I want to thank HB again for joining us today. And I know myself greatly appreciate your insight and your deep friendship. And it has been a pleasure to have you on, my man. And I want you to let us and all the people know how people can connect with you.
Yeah, man, it was a pleasure being on here. Like I said, I enjoy talking about this thing that happened. I hope to get to do it with her on here one more time. But
definitely,
you can find me on Twitter at Just a Kid from KY. Instagram the same. Do a couple podcasts as well. Just search Harvey Banks inside of whatever you use to listen to podcasts, and they should all pop up. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, thanks, my man. I'd like to leave you off with just one more quote as my all-time favorite quote by Dr. Wayne Dyer. You create your thoughts create your intentions create your reality. There's a lot of things in life that you can't really worry about or have it stop you from becoming who you want to be in life. So just remember that. And with that said, I really want to thank you all for listening to today's episode, and hope to catch you all next week. Remember to always find your smile. And as always, remember, I love you. Peace.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the I Self Reflect podcast. Subscribe and tune in next time to continue your journey to self-love, growth, and reflection. Make sure you follow us on all social channels at I Self Reflect, and check out our shop at iselfreflect.com. That's iselfreflect.com. Until next time, keep spreading the love.